I'm recognizing that a lot of things are lost in our effort to find them. And I think ourselves are one of those things. And not only that, but in a lot of ways, what we chase is running from us constantly. Not in essence of it actually running away, but in essence of the whole idea and premise of chasing something is aligned with the idea that it's actively trying to elude our pursuit of it. I think coming from a standpoint where we're trying to chase and achieve our goals, chase and achieve ourselves, it sort of takes away a lot of the real objective in doing so. Because it's not really about the achievement. It's about coming into yourself and I guess bringing yourself into the moment and validation of the self. Um, More than anything, in my own life, I'm recognizing that it's very important to commit yourself to working in your favor, both in thought and in action. You know, there are countless stories out about people's relative success or people's authenticity or people's this, people's that. In a common thread that I find in all of them, because everyone's different, it's always their belief in what they have yet to achieve, their belief in the possibility of their own success. I think a lot of us sort of look at the world and take everything as a sign of our own displacement, when in the very same light, everything can be a sign of the universe's affection. And what I mean by that is, we're waiting for things to show us that we're in line with this. We're waiting for things to do this, to do that, so we feel good on the path that we're on. And the only reason I feel like we don't see many of the things that are telling us to keep going is because we're looking for specific instantiations of keep going. Instead of, you know, recognizing a synchronicity or recognizing, something going in our favor subtly. Maybe it's not a grand thing, maybe it's a subtle thing. We look at it in reference to the grand thing that we want and say, oh, we must not be aligned yet. And I always think alignment is more so a choice than it is a way of being, because you have to consistently choose yourself in that regard. Choose yourself enough to not always listen to the negative thoughts you may have, and not listen to the negative thoughts the world may present to you. I think a lot of times we paint our past with a certain vibrance, with a certain color that makes it either beautiful or makes it something that we want to escape from, something that we want to grow from, someone that we want to move on from. And recently I've been doing a lot of prompted introspection, especially about my past and childhood and whatnot. And I didn't recognize the way I was taking away from the total, the whole of who I am by not addressing some of the good aspects that I had and carried with me as a child. I think a lot of us, when we undergo change, when we undergo some type of development as people, we throw our previous selves or previous idea away and instantiate to ourselves in a subtle way that, who we are is entirely quote unquote new. And I think there is a newness of character. There's a newness of perspective. But I think there's a subtle lining in each of us that makes us consistently and authentically ourselves, regardless of what we do. I guarantee you can look at yourself for characteristics that you currently have now that were present when you were a child. And I think in acknowledging that and giving yourself that type of stasis, it gives you more comfort when moving into the world. Because I think a lot of us are still chasing ourselves. A lot of us are still chasing certain positive attributes to add on to ourselves, or chasing the positive attributes we think we may have. And, in the same thing that, in the same way that what we chase is constantly running from us, what we run from has already caught us in a way. And that's not to say that, if you're running from your negativity, you also are it's also running from you in a way, but to say that when we are talking about our negativity, and when we are trying to address our past, or doing anything in that regard to actually move forward from where we were, the importance isn't to run. It's never to run in either case. You know, to say what you run from has already caught you is to say stand still. That's the only way you truly shake off some of these uh, embers of the past. You know, it's going to remain as present as you allow it to be. I think things remain present when we refuse to. And when it comes to things running from us because we're chasing it, then it's about standing still. Attraction has never been about you chasing something. It's been about you being where you are, who you are, and bringing those certain things into your life. And that doesn't mean not taking action. It means the way we look about our action, the way we look towards our goals, the way we look towards anything. It has to be with a sort of state of gratitude, a sort of state of some type of higher mentality, higher emotion, and sort of give ourselves enough validity to be where we are. And in that way, we don't need to have the entire path figured out for ourselves. We just need to be present enough to take the step. You might see more steps some days than others, but it's always the first step that reveals the second. I feel like it's always our relative effort with what we have that shows us what we can. And I think that's all we really have to do. You know, I'm in this, I wouldn't say mode, I'm in this period of my life where I'm really learning to let go in a way. I feel like we're constantly in this cycle of letting go, repeating, holding on to something, letting go, holding on to something. And I think it's about time we just stop doing that to ourselves. If we reference the way that things have been, then we can recognize the ways in which our overthought about our issues and ourselves hasn't genuinely contributed to anything but more thought. And, you know, I'm not telling people not to think, but thinking is not all that we are. It's about how we exist. You know, it's not about just the world of words. It's about the world beyond it. It's about how we feel. It's about all the beauty that's out there that can't be encapsulated in words, because words are just definitions onto what is. If I was to say love in general and talk about the feeling, it may be expressed 100 different ways for 100 different people. You know, when you're talking about something that encompasses a feeling, especially when it comes to your positivity, your gratitude, I think the word sort of enforces a certain amount of separation. And I think the way that we've been taught that, oh, happiness follows this, or gratitude follows this, makes us dependent on certain circumstances in order to feel that emotion. But if we take down the walls of our words and just think about what happiness truly just feels like, then it's something you can embody at any time. It's something that we can choose. You know, and I saw a TikTok, I think, and it was this girl talking about if we start to look at our emotions as like portals into new quote unquote realities, then we would probably start to control our emotions more fervently. And I think that's entirely true. You know, when you take a step back from your own dependence on things to look a certain way for you to feel a certain way, then you'll start to feel in accordance to how you want to feel and how you feel in accordance to who you really are. And I think who we really are is always subject to change. But I think that change can only truly occur if we give ourselves an opportunity to do so. And I think that opportunity isn't given by the world, it's given by you. I think it's always given by our conscious attention and presence towards whatever it is that we're actually genuinely trying to work towards. And not even in the act of consistently working, quote unquote, but in the act of giving ourselves some type of opportunity, some type of love, some type of intimacy with the life that we're living, and continuing to move forward regardless. It's not about how it looks, it's about how you look at it that truly drives anything. And I think it's about time we start looking at ourselves in a way that actually allows us to do what we want to. You know, I recognize so many times in my past where I was thinking of myself in such a limited way that stopped my ability to do something, especially when it pertained to the opinions of others and coming into the perception of other people. But the thing I've recognized with the perception of other people is you're limiting yourself by your perception of their perception. Oftentimes, people don't say what they think about you. And if you walk into a room and if someone's doing this, someone's doing that, you might have a thought about them. It's not always negative. And most of all, it's not always important, and it never has an impact on what is actually occurring. So you have to give yourself that liberty in a real way to do what you can with what you have and focus on the act of doing rather than the act of being perceived. You know, if we constantly do things for how we are experienced, then we won't experience our own life. We'll constantly be attuning who we are and how we are for the experience of other people. And what I'm realizing with authenticity is it speaks to all people the same in a way. It either frightens people for their lack of address of their own authenticity, or it enlivens people. Because all we can truly be is ourselves. And I think for any one person to journey into their own sect of authenticity for the sake of just being them, then they recognize that whatever they are is something that they don't have to chase. And whatever their character naturally attracts, quote unquote, they don't have to chase either. And when we talk about natural attraction, it's not necessarily saying that people are predestined to attract certain things into their life, but to say that the way at which we build upon ourselves becomes what we naturally attract. If I form myself and give myself an opportunity to truly be like a positive person, or a person that looks towards my goals with a certain amount of appreciation and recognition that it's already here, then what occurs will occur naturally. It won't be a necessarily a conscious effort as long as I give it to myself. And that's what it means to say letting go is what makes it stay. Allowing certain characteristics to be inherent to us, allowing ourselves to be in the moment, and allowing ourselves to not be so preoccupied with our thoughts about the moment that we actually fail to address where we are within the moment and how we are within the moment and how we can actually tend towards what it is we actually desire. Overall, I'm really just thinking about, you know, how each individual is governed by their own sense of success. It's not really about what it does for the mass, because even if we achieve success in the way that society may see fit, a lot of people still find that they want their own definition. They want their own inherent authentic value given back to themselves. You know, and I think a lot of us come to that realization a little too late to actually start experiencing the life that we want to live. You know, you can experience beauty now, even in the midst of whatever hardship you may think this is. Beauty still exists because it never leaves the moment. We are the only ones who are actually leaving the moment in our constant preoccupation with our mind and thoughts, and especially in the reliving of the negativity of the past. And I don't say that to say you can't address the past, but the past is to be looked at, not lived in. For the only place you can truly live is the present. And the only place we should look is forward sometimes, unless looking back gives us greater insight on how to move forward. All that to say thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you guys are taking care of yourself and doing what you can with what you have. A lot more on the way, a lot already here. I'm about to get into streaming, I think, a little bit more frequently. All in all, keep being y'all. Thank you. Treat yourself like a friend.